Welcome to the InnovateX Fireside Series, where we provide insight from experienced professionals on the startup process for young entrepreneurs. My name is Katie, and I'm the founder and CEO of InnovateX.
I'm Vaishnavi, and I'm the Director of Outreach and PR, and we are super excited to have you today. Today's topic is feasibility and risks. Would you like to sort of explain your job as General Counsel?
Yeah, so I'm General Counsel for startups. I pretty much come in at the very early stages of when a startup is founded, and I help set up all of their founding documents. I also help manage a lot of the risks that come along with startups and making sure that their startups aren't making the big mistakes that I've seen a lot of startups make. And so that's kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis is I go in and make sure startups get off the ground properly and aren't in a position where they're going to get sued later on, or they're going to have massive issues with investors.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Could you tell me a bit more about why you chose this career pathway and what really sparked your passion for this and inspired you?
So I've always been an arguer by trade. Parents pushed me into debate. I ended up loving it. And when I went to college, I got my master's in history. So that way I could do one of two things, to be a teacher or be a lawyer. And after graduating college in 3 years, I wasn't ready to make a 4 year or 3 year commitment to law school. So I became a teacher, did that for a little bit and realized it wasn't for me. But throughout all of those different career paths, like throughout college and all of these different things, I constantly was starting my own businesses and doing all of these different things. I had the entrepreneurial bug. And so by the time I got done with law school, I'd already run through 3 or 4 different businesses. And when I became a lawyer, to come to warehouse with a lot of stuff. A little bit and earlier in my career, I was working with actually founded startups that had money and were well on their way of progressing. And then at this point in my career, I was able to make the jump. I founded my own law firm. So I have my the ability to pay for my life through that. And now I can take my time and invest it into startups. So I don't charge my startups any money. I just take equity. I pretty much use my time as my way to invest in startups, just like a VC does.
Yeah, awesome. That sounds really awesome. Vaishnavi, do you want to take the next question?
Yeah, so I love that you decided to invest your time as a general counsel. As an angel investor, what are some qualities that you look in for startups that make them to invest in them that make them dependable or high growth?
So the 3 big things that I look for when I'm investing my time and my money into startups is the team, the idea, and the market. So when it comes to, and out of those 3, the biggest one is team. If you have to put together a good team that can execute the plan, because if you don't have a team that can't execute, then there's no point in me investing my time or my money into the startup, because you're already kind of doomed at that point. So it's a lot of that comes down to putting together the right pieces. Startups require a lot of different things to get them off the ground. And one of the major things is having the right connections, because in this world, it's not about what you know necessarily. You have to know that, but what differentiates people from the people that are going to succeed are the people that can pick up the phone or send an email to someone and get something done. And so I like to invest my time into founding teams that have that ability that have those deep connections. And so especially for early founders, it's important to reach out, like go to webinars, go to social events. I know it's really hard with the pandemic going on, but there are so many ways to get yourself out there and really make those connections. So that way later on, you can pick up a phone, send an email, send a LinkedIn message to someone and get that ball moving. Consistency. It's about being able to make that connection and then keep growing that connection over time. I've talked to a lot of people that go to all of these events, but they never follow up. And so they have all these great people on their LinkedIn, but they're not friends with any of them. They have no capital invested in that relationship. So you can't be able to ask them for that favor when you need it. So really that's what that team needs to be able to do is, yeah, you have to have your CTO, your CEO, all of those different positions, and you have to know what you're doing. But that secret sauce that makes a team really good is those connections that you can bring to the table. Next is the idea. And honestly, the idea just has to be good. A fantastic team can make a good idea a billion-dollar company. It you talk about a lot of these companies that get out there like Airbnb. Simple idea. It was revolutionary, but it's not like it wouldn't have happened at some other point in time. Those guys were just at the right place at the right time, and they had the right connections, the right drive, all of these different things. So the idea doesn't have to be terribly amazing for it to be a billion-dollar company. It just has to be good enough. Is the idea profitable? Will people buy it? Those are really the two things that need to be answered. And number three is the market. Are you going into a market that's big enough? And is it the right time in the market? So those are the kind of three things that I look for. And the biggest one's the team. Make sure you're meeting the right people, you're socializing, when you're putting together your teams, it's all about that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially the people that you interact with, as well as the execution of your idea. I think that's really key in terms of how successful your startup will be in the future. But just hopping off that same thought, so what are some common problems that you come across when you're helping businesses and advising these startups? So what are some common issues that you notice that anyone watching this right now should keep in mind as they go on with their own venture?
One of my biggest issues that I've had to deal with in countless startups is actually infighting within the founding team. And eventually there's a disagreement, something happens, and everything hits the fan. I've had so many problems because I come in at an early stage, but usually they've already been going for several months, maybe 6 months, a year, and then I'm coming in, and yeah, it's pretty early, but at the same time, there's this tension, and they never set up the company properly, and they don't have a way to deal with that tension or disagreements, especially when there's two founders and both are sharing the the kind of the mantle of CEO, COO kind of role, and something goes wrong. I actually had one team that I was working with where one of the founders actually had a mental breakdown and was out of commission for over a month or two. And the other founder didn't have enough control of the company to be able to make any legitimate decisions. They had to make decisions together. And I had just gotten into the company like 2 weeks in, was clearing up a lot of other high risk stuff for them. And I didn't have a chance to put those key documents in place. And so I learned a lesson that that is the first thing I do is I make sure that the structure of your company is done properly, because hey, the last thing you want to do is have to put your whole company on hold while something's going on with the founders. And if you're um, part of that founding team and you have zero control, you lose faith in your founders. And so that's probably one of my big key things is make sure you're solving that problem early on. Make sure you have a way to deal with disputes. Make sure you can solve those problems early on.
Yeah, I completely agree with you in terms of like having a risky relationship with someone else can really just ruin your company. So, what are some other legal considerations that someone should sort of keep in mind before having partnerships or creating partnerships?
Um, right now, the big topic in the legal field is data privacy. And so um, making sure when you're building your company, you understand what data you're collecting and making sure you're not breaching any data privacy laws, because yes, your company's probably really, really low down on the totem pole for what the regulators are going to be fining and dealing with, but you want to make sure that it's baked into your product. That way you don't have to overhaul the whole thing. A great example of this was a car company. They created this whole really cool feature where you could unlock the car with your phone. But in order to do that, you had to send data to a server that went to the US, and it violated GDPR. And the lawyers got pulled into it on the day before launch of this feature. The car was launching, and they're like, "Is this okay?" And the lawyers were like, "No, you're going to get us huge, massive fines because you didn't talk to us soon enough." And so the thing is, when you're looking at your products, talking to a lawyer and making sure you're baking in all of the data privacy early on, especially in software companies, is crucial, because then you're going to have to go back and revamp all of these things. And you just don't want to do that. Especially like startups, you're spending a lot of time. Investors care about these kinds of things. But that's the big thing in the tech world right now, is data privacy. And the other thing is, each product is different, so you don't know what you don't know. And being able to talk to a legal expert is just having someone that's knowledgeable, board advisor, someone that you can talk to, because you don't know what you don't know. And each startup I work with, there's a lot of times I don't necessarily know what those risks are, and I have to go out and find them because the founding team doesn't know what they're talking about. And like, I was working with a hand sanitizer company, and they had all, like, because of COVID, there's all sorts of regulations that started popping up, and all of a sudden you're dealing with a whole new bag of worms. And it's a fun thing for certain types of people, but for other founding members, it can be a pain because it's roadblocks for sales and for getting the company off the ground. So those are the kinds of things that I would worry about from a legal perspective.
Yes, I think you make a really good point there. So, in addition to seeking out a legal representative or advisor, are there any other steps young founders can take to prevent these types of things from happening?
Um, know your market. Like, when you're starting off in whatever industry you're in, go talk to those professionals. Go talk to those kinds of people that already have the knowledge and know what to be looking for. Because there's a lot of people out there, and they're willing to help you. You just have to be able to present yourself in the right way to be able to get that help. Especially if when you're not looking for money, and you're not looking for them to, like, back your company, or you're just looking for advice, people are generally they're kind of like, "Oh, that's so nice." Like, someone thinks that I'm really, like, that professional. And so most people will make the time. I've never found someone, at least in my profession, or the people that I've talked to, really turn down their nose at when I actually have a legal question. I have lots of attorneys that I go and talk to, and because I'm not an expert in everything, no one is. And so you go find those experts, you find those people that you can trust, and you just ask them questions, and you're be very thankful and very upfront about it. And most people are willing to help you out.
Yeah, I love that. Just being open to people really can do a lot. Going off on some stories that you gave earlier, like the hand sanitizer company and like the car company, what are some successes and failures you've seen some startup companies come across, or that you've come across?
I've come across all sorts of failures, and you never know how the failure is going to come. In a startup, it's going to happen. Like, every startup I've been a part of has had some type of setback, problem, failure, and the question is, how do you deal with it? How do you overcome that failure? Do you just crumple up and close down the whole shop, or do you figure something out to be able to make it happen? because there's always a way around it. The hand sanitizer company that I was looking for, they had an issue with the EU regulates hand sanitizer in multiple different ways and regulates different types of hand sanitizer in different ways. And so the hand sanitizer that we were using was regulated by each state. And we wanted to get it regulated by the whole EU and get one certificate and just deal with it that way. So the question was, how do we do that? And so by switching from isopropanol to another type, to an ethanol-based one, or sorry, it was ethanol-based to isopropanol hand sanitizer, we were able to solve that problem. And so by being able to purchase it just from one manufacturer, they were able to put it into their product very cleanly, rather than having to get different certificates from each EU country. Instead, they were able to get one certificate for the whole thing. And so that solved the problem. But you had to dig and you had to go through, like I spent hours going through all the regulations, reading blogs, reading all of these different things to uncover how we could solve that problem. And so that's the thing. There's lots of information out there in the world, and it just takes time to be able to figure it out. And you get these kind of problems, and it's just about how do you overcome them.
Yeah, for sure. So as we start wrapping up, do you have any tips and advice for young entrepreneurs, so high school students who are looking to start your own startups? So any advice and tips for them?
So my two best pieces of advice that I always give everyone is, if you're not a little scared, then you're dreaming too small. You everything you do there should be that little knot in your stomach being like, am I sure I can do this? Because that's where you want to be. You don't want to take, like, life is too short to take this the easy way. Go big, or like just do something that's meaningful, that's risky, because the world needs more of that in this world. And lastly, when you're doing a startup, it's all about the small wins. People think, oh, I want to hit the homer. I want to get this big deal done. And the reality is, it's about getting small wins and being able to move in football. You just want to move the yardage, and each down, like you just need to get each down, and you need to move the chains. It's not about throwing that Hail Mary pass, because you can throw as many of those as you want. It's not going to work. It's all about the small wins. And if you keep getting small wins, you're going to get to that end zone. And that's the beautiful thing. And most people, I feel like, don't understand that concept. And they're always in a rush, and they're always trying to they're like, we're not there yet. And it takes time. Everything's going to take way more time than you think. Every startup I've been on, the founding team's like, yeah, we'll get this done in 3 weeks. And 3 months later, they're finishing it. And it's like, yeah, that's the reality. Everything just takes more time. So just get the small wins.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matthew, for joining us today. I think that's all the questions we have for you right now. And any last words or comments for people who are watching this?
Dream big. Go for the stars. Like the world at your age, why not?
I love that inspirational segment you just gave us. Sometimes people just really need to hear that. So I love that.
Yeah, because if you're dreaming big enough, then other people will. If you're dreaming big enough, like, other people will catch that and believe in your mission. And it just, like, it's really empowering when you start getting a few more people and you start getting that momentum, and all of a sudden all these people believe in this vision. You're like, I have no clue what's actually going on, but everyone's believing in me. And it's just like, just keep going. It's okay. No one knows exactly what they're doing. Just keep believing, just keep pushing, and just take those small steps.
Thank you, Matthew, for your wonderful words of wisdom. Please make sure to like and hit that red subscribe button for more content in the future. Thanks for watching.